All right, traders, what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to be teaching you how to use the anchored VWAP drawing tool within inside the TickBlaze platform for active day trading. Now you could use the anchored VWAP for macro trend trades as well, but this will be better served for all of you day traders out there that are looking to use a more actionable edge as opposed to, let's say, the standard VWAP or normal moving averages for trend trading. Now let's talk about that for a second. Inside of almost every single trading platform, you have what we call the standard VWAP. And the VWAP is important because it's technically the institutional benchmark for value within the institutional funds, right? If you're above or below VWAP, normally dictates whether you're cheap or expensive in terms of the bigger traders out there. But that really doesn't make any sense for the active retail trader, especially when you're looking to capitalize on intraday moves that are changing rapidly, and it really doesn't matter where the daily VWAP is. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to challenge you to look outside the conventional norms for a moment, and let's put things into perspective. If you're a trader and you're looking at trend trading, most people learn with moving averages. And what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to give you a more powerful way to trade trends using volume profile. Now, a lot of traders will learn the standard VWAP method first, but what we're going to do in this video is we're going to show you how the anchored VWAP is much more superior for active trading. Now, this trading video is going to show you how to use the anchored VWAP, and I'm going to show you how to apply it on your charts and how to set the colors and the settings. But what I like to do in these videos, I like to leave you with an actionable strategy that you can actually look to take and trade moving forward with your own, day trading business or your own swing trading business, right? These videos are great for learning, but if you don't learn a strategy, then, what's really the point? So what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to use this tool, and then I'm going to give you an actionable strategy to trade with, okay? So what we'll do first is we're going to start by just zoning in. Now, I'll get to these boxes in a second. There's a reason why I drew them on the chart, but essentially when you go into the TickBlaze platform, you click on the draw tool, drop down, and you scroll down, and you're going to see anchored VWAP. Okay. You could also see this when you right click the chart, you go to drawings, you're going to see under the profiles category, you're going to see anchored VWAP. Now, when you click on this, remember this is a drawing tool. So if I click anywhere on the chart, if I click up here, if I click over there, if I click over here, it's going to draw the anchored VWAP on the chart. And what we're going to do is I'm going to apply one first. Let's just start with just the hard right edge. I'm going to apply the anchored VWAP from the high here. And the reason it looks like this is because I've configured this to look like this. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating the VWAP, which is the blue line, and these black lines are essentially one band from the anchored VWAP. Now what I'll do is I'll open up the anchored VWAP by clicking on it. I'm going to go into the parameters, and you can change the settings, you can change the colors, but what I've done is I've changed my band deviations to 0.25, and essentially I've turned off the other bands. You could turn on band number 2, band number 3. Most VWAPs have 3 standard deviations from the VWAP, but for this strategy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to use essentially a quarter of a deviation from the volume profile. And this is going to get you really good risk and reward, and this is going to teach you how to use them for intraday trading, okay? Now, the first thing we're going to do when we use the anchor VWAP is we're going to answer a couple questions, okay? When and why? When do we want to use it, and why do we want to use it? And this is really important because a lot of people will just start applying a VWAP to the chart, and then one day they want to trade a trend, or the next day they want to trade a reversal, and there's no edge behind that, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you how to locate where to put your anchor point. An anchor point is where you start your drawing tool from. We're going to apply the anchored VWAP to the chart, and then you're going to know how to trade the trend trade when we pull back to the VWAP that you've drawn on the chart, okay? Now there's a little rule here, and I'm going to show you the exact bar to place the anchored VWAP on relative to the strategy that I'm going to show you. Now, just for disclaimer purposes, there's many ways to use the anchored VWAP. You could use it for bigger picture levels. You could use it for micro trend trading. But what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how to identify consolidation, which are these boxes, right, where the market's range bound, okay, over here as well, okay? And once the market breaks out of the consolidation, I'm going to teach you how to locate the inducement candle, okay, the inducement, okay, which is the last bar that basically fakes out all the traders before sucking everybody into the big trend. And that's very, very important, because if you identify the candle properly, you could really nail a really good trend trade. So let's do this for a second, okay? You're gonna see here that the market essentially consolidated all day. Now this is the ES on a 5-minute chart, and this was literally Friday. I'm filming this on a Sunday, and this is last Friday, okay? And you're gonna see the market stayed here, and it just went sideways, came down, then went back into the range, came back up, went back into the range, came back down, and then it basically dropped, okay? Well, if you look at where it truly took out the floor, it took out the floor essentially right here. This was the floor here, okay? You can see that there was many touches here, here, we came back down, here, here, came back down. There's a floor here. And when you realize that, once the market proves to break through it, this is an opportunity for you to get the anchored VWAP on your chart and get ready to trade the trend with the market. Now, you would not normally use an EMA for this, an exponential average or a simple moving average, because it's not going to give you the same strategy. It's not going to give you the same advantage. And normally what I like to do is, if the market is trending down, okay, and I want to trade the anchored VWAP in a strategy, the question is, where do I start my anchor point and where do I take the trend trade? So the inducement candle would be the last up bar before it took out the floor of the range. Okay, so, and I'll show you a long example in just a second, but for this example, we're looking for the short. So what I'll do is I will go in here. It's easy to use the drop down in Tick Blaze. You just come down here, go to anchored VWAP, click it. Now I'm engaged in a drawing tool. I'm going to click on that bar and watch what happens when the market comes back to test. The market traded below. This volume profile anchored VWAP is going to be forecasting where the moving dynamic volume is going to be for the trend. And take a look, we came right back into this. And the reason I put those little black bands is I like to have a little area for me to identify where the market's likely to trade. Now, if I come in here, you can see that it came right inside of that band and it dropped like a rock. And you'll see it almost tagged it again, but it came right back up in here. This was the money trade for the best trend trade of the day. And that is exactly what I'm teaching you today. So you could come in here, you could use the risk and reward profiling tool if you wanted to plan your trade. Okay, you can do that. And you can see that, that was normally you'll put the stop above the VWAP, and it was easily a 3-to-1 trade. I mean, it hit 6-to-1 on this trade, but the point isn't how much you make on the trade. The point is do you identify how to do this properly, and why would you want to use an anchored VWAP over a standard EMA? A standard EMA would not give you the exact same trade because you can control where to start the volume profile from. Okay, let's go back and find another example. Now you can see here on the Thursday, we consolidated in the pre-market. This was the Asian session. This was essentially the European session. Not much movement, but we stayed within this very tight consolidation. And so as soon as we broke out, right, there was the rocket ship out, right? As soon as we took out the ceiling, we had many touches here, a couple touches there. As soon as we took out the ceiling, this is where you should be getting ready with the anchored VWAP to identify the trend trade. Okay, now if you come down, you take a look at the anchored VWAP, the inducement candle will be the last down candle before the market pumped up. And this is very important that you draw the anchor from that candle. And take a look at how the market respected the VWAP, the anchored VWAP, from that specific point. If you would draw the anchor in some other point, you may not get the accuracy that I'm showing you. And so if you look at how the market respected the first touch. Let me just pull this last one here. If you look at this, Take a look at how it reacted here. Came back down to test it here, came back down to test it here, came back down to test it here. The reason I use the 0.25 standard deviation bands is because sometimes the market will come right into the area of interest and you'll get a really good trade right here and it doesn't even touch the volume. And this is kind of like an area, right? Everybody wants to be so perfect with the exact line. Nobody cares as long as you get the trade and you get a really good opportunity from it. You can see here, this came into it a little bit further, but this it didn't. This came in here a little bit as well, spiked and pushed up. And so these are really, really good trades because this gives you an opportunity to see why we would take those trades when the breakout happens. Trends always happen after the consolidation. The market is building a big position, and once it's done finding balance, it breaks out. As soon as you see the breakout, that is when you have an opportunity to get ready for a really good volume profile trend trade. And this is one way to use anchored VWAP. It's not the only way, but it is definitely one way to do it accurately. Now let's go to the day before. The day before, okay, this would have happened in the overnight session. So if you were trading in the European session, right, around 3 o'clock, you would have been able to take advantage of this big trend trade. Now there was sideways movement in the overnight in the Asian session. If you take a look, where did it happen? Okay, the breakout, let's grab it. Anchored VWAP, the last inducement candle, there it is. The last down candle before the breakout. And take a look, as soon as we broke out, there was several touches right here, that little teeny bit of volume, and it gave a huge pump. Came back to test it, came back to test it, came back to test it, came back to test it. This is not by accident that it's coming into this area. These are volume profile levels, not standard moving averages. And if you draw your anchor from the wrong location, you're not going to get the accuracy that I'm showing you, okay? So make sure you identify the consolidation, take the inducement candle, and do that. Okay, let's go back down here. There's a huge candle here, huge trend. I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's take a look at this, okay? Now, you can clearly see tight consolidation here, right? You can see this is a big position building, most likely a basing candle on a higher time frame. And if you look closely, right inside of this, the last down candle, this one is, even though it's a white bar, it's not really a down body, so I'm gonna choose this candle here, okay? And let's just wrap the anchored VWAP from this. Anchored VWAP, touch that bar, boom. And actually, if you take a look, where the first trade happened, the first trade was exceptionally clean. It was right here. Really clean pullback, nested on that black outer band, gave a big rotation up. It did come back for another pullback, built another position and came back up, right? But the first trade was the best, right? The first trade off that breakout was really clean, and that would have set you up for a really, really low tight stop and a really huge trend trade. So my suggestion is, okay, for those of you that are new and you're just getting started with tick blaze and you're just getting started with the colors and the settings, okay, I'm gonna delete all the drawings. Remember, the anchored VWAP is a draw tool. You come in here, right click, go to drawings, go to profiles. You can see the anchored VWAP. Just put it anywhere on the chart and you can ultimately just double click on it and go in and save your settings. Change all your colors. Now you can use the other bands if you want, but like I said, this is a specific strategy that we like to teach traders on how to trade trends using volume profile. Once you set all your settings, go into the settings, hit set as default. So whenever you apply it on your chart, right, if you want to come in here and just apply it, right, apply it here, apply it there, it's all going to be the same colors. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned something from using volume profile for trends. It's all about where you draw the anchor, and it's all about waiting for the market to prove itself. Once you do that, you're in a really, really good opportunity to take low risk pullbacks into anchored VWAP trend trades. Take care, traders, and we'll see you on the charts.